Welcome to my channel. Today, I want to share with you a story about love slowly unraveling, quiet betrayals that cut the deepest, and the painful courage it takes to walk away from someone you still love. Let's dive right into it. I wish I could say I knew something was wrong, that there were signs. But sometimes, betrayal hides behind the most ordinary days. It was Sunday morning. The sun leaked gently through our apartment windows, and Daniel had just come back from a short work trip to New Orleans. He kissed my forehead like always and handed me my favorite croissant from that overpriced French bakery down the street. I smiled. I really believed that we were good, safe, even. We'd been together for 5 years. Met in collège. I was an education major stressing over student teaching. He was the quiet guy in the back row of computer science lectures. Somehow, we clicked. There were late-night study sessions that turned into deep talks, silences that felt comfortable, a kind of safety I had never felt before. So when I found the bank notification on his iPad later that day, a $300 charge from New Orleans Wellness Spa at 11:42 p.m., I didn't feel fear. Not yet. I felt curiosity, mild confusion. Maybe Daniel wasn't a spa guy. He hated massages, said they made him itchy. I showed him the charge. His face didn't twitch. He looked at it, then shrugged. Yeah. I think the hotel had some weird resort fees. I'll call them. Something inside me, something small and stubborn, didn't believe him. Still, I let it go for the moment. I folded laundry, watered the plants, but all the while, my mind was swimming. Why did he look down when he said it? Why did his voice get higher at the end of the sentence? That night, while he was in the shower, I looked it up. New Orleans Wellness Spa. It wasn't a spa. It was an escort service. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped his iPad. My chest felt like it was caving in. My brain was screaming to wait, to not jump to conclusions, but everything in me already knew. When he came out in his towel, still drying his hair, I asked quietly. So quietly, "Did you pay for something in New Orleans?" His eyes flicked to me. "What do you mean?" "That $300 charge. It's not a hotel. It's an escort service." He didn't answer right away. He just stood there, frozen. "Daniel." He sat on the edge of the bed, buried his head in his hands. "Nothing happened," he said. And that was when I really knew, because if nothing had happened, he would have said it first. Without the pause, without the guilt already soaking through his shirt like sweat. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Not then. I just asked again. "Did you pay someone?" He nodded. I asked what for. His voice broke. "A blowjob." I stared at him, at the man I had loved for years, slept next to, cooked for, laughed with, dreamed beside. I waited for him to say more, to explain it away, but all he said was, "I was drunk. I didn't know what I was doing. I wanted to hit him. I wanted to hug him. I wanted to disappear." Instead, I walked into the living room, curled up on the couch, and stared at the ceiling until morning. He didn't follow. The next day, I went to work like a ghost. My second graders told me my eyes looked tired. I smiled and said I had trouble sleeping, which wasn't a lie. Back home, he made coffee like usual, asked if I wanted any, like we were still the same. "We need to talk," I said. He nodded. "I know. I don't know what to do." He reached for my hand. "Please don't leave me." And maybe that was the worst part, because I didn't want to throw away 5 years. I didn't want to start over. I didn't want to wake up in a cold bed, but I also couldn't forget that he had made a choice. In some lonely hotel room, he had decided that my love wasn't enough, that our history, our promises, our plans, they all came second to 15 minutes of something from someone he didn't even know. And yet, I still loved him. What kind of fool does that make me? I told myself I needed time. He agreed to sleep on the couch. We made fake small talk. But every night, I heard myself crying into my pillow, quietly, so he wouldn't hear. Or maybe so I wouldn't. That's when I ended up on Reddit, looking for strangers to give me strength. Because the people around me, my mom, my best friend, my coworker Julie, they would all tell me to leave. And maybe that's what I needed. But something about saying it to anonymous strangers made it easier, less real. More like asking a magic 8 ball if I was going to be okay. I stared at the screen for an hour before I typed the post. How do I let go of my boyfriend of many years who paid for a blowjob? And once I hit post, I waited. For answers. For clarity. For the push I couldn't give myself. The responses started rolling in within minutes. Some were blunt. Leave him. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Others were more gentle. You deserve better. Elena, it's okay to grieve, but don't stay stuck. But the one that broke me said, you're not weak. You're just human. Loving someone who hurt you isn't pathetic. It's real. But staying with them might break you more than leaving ever will. I read that one 10 times. I think I whispered it to myself like a prayer that night. The next few days blurred. He tried to act normal, made dinner, picked up groceries, even folded the laundry without me asking. It was like watching someone try to glue together shattered glass. The shape was there, but the cracks still gleamed under the light. In the quiet moments, I started replaying everything. All the years, all the signs I ignored. There were the late nights when he stayed at work finishing code. The weekends he suddenly needed to clear his head alone. The time I found a text from someone named D with a winky face, and he said it was just a joke from a coworker. I had wanted to believe him so badly then. I did. Love makes you blind, but sometimes it also makes you mute. I saw red flags. I swallowed them like pills, hoping they'd cure themselves. I thought back to our early days. College. Cold pizza at midnight. His nervous laugh when I first asked him to dance. The way he used to look at me, like I was the only person in a room of hundreds. When did that look fade? Or did I just stop noticing? We used to dream together. About a small house with a garden. A dog named Bean. Sunday mornings with music and pancakes. He once told me he could imagine us growing old together. Wrinkled hands. Still holding on. That version of him. That version of us. Where did it go? One night, I sat on the floor of our bedroom, surrounded by shoeboxes of old photos and ticket stubs. A crumpled movie ticket from our first date. A napkin from a diner where we carved our initials into the wooden table. A Polaroid of us on a beach trip. Me laughing as he chased a seagull like a child. I stared at those memories, wondering if they meant anything to him anymore, or if they had faded into background noise, like static on a broken radio. He walked in and found me like that. Knees pulled to chest, eyes rimmed red, and for the first time since the confession, I saw tears in his eyes too. Elena, he said, kneeling down. I know you don't believe me, but I hate myself for what I did. I didn't say anything. I couldn't, he continued. I didn't do it because of you, or us. I don't even know why I did it. I felt empty, like something was missing, but it wasn't you. It was me. I almost laughed. That line sounded like something out of a breakup movie. It's not you. It's me. How convenient. But he looked so broken, so sincere. That part of me wanted to believe it. Still, I asked, why didn't you just talk to me? Tell me you were struggling. His answer was a whisper, because I didn't want to admit it. I didn't want to be seen as weak. You've always been the strong one. Me. Strong. I hadn't felt strong in weeks. I hadn't even been able to walk past our bathroom mirror without flinching, afraid I'd see someone pitiful, someone unloved. But in that moment, I realized something. Maybe I wasn't weak. Maybe staying and pretending everything was fine. That was weakness. Leaving. Facing the unknown. That took guts. After he went to sleep, I stayed up reading more Reddit comments. One stood out. You can love someone and still leave them. Love isn't always enough. It hit me like cold water, because I still loved him. That part hadn't changed, but maybe it didn't matter anymore. A week passed. One long, aching, dreamless week. I thought time would blur the edges of the pain, that if I went through the motions enough, work, sleep, smile, nod, it would start to fade. But grief clung to me like a second skin, invisible, but suffocating. Daniel kept his distance. Mostly, he slept on the couch like he promised, cooked silently, left notes with soft thinking of you messages. It might have been sweet, if it hadn't come from someone who had shattered me. On Friday evening, I sat alone in the kitchen, staring into a cup of untouched tea. That's when my phone buzzed. Julie, My coworker. Julie. Wine and girl talk tonight. My couch. 7 p.m. No excuses. I hesitated. Part of me didn't want to speak, to relive it all, but the other part, the part that still wanted to feel like myself, grabbed my coat. Julie lived just a few blocks away. She greeted me with a tight hug and a bottle of red that looked like it came from a shelf labeled emergency heartbreak only. I told her everything. How I found the charge, his lie, his confession, my numbness. She didn't interrupt, just listened. And when I finally broke, sobbing into her throw pillows, she whispered the one thing no one else had said to me yet. You don't need to forgive him to be free. Elena. That stuck with me. We drank until the wine dulled the sharpest edges. Then she offered to let me stay over. But I wanted my own bed, or at least the illusion of it. When I walked into the apartment, it was dark except for the soft glow of the TV. Daniel was asleep on the couch, remote still in hand, face turned toward the cushions. I moved quietly to the bedroom, trying not to think. But something caught my eye on the side table. His phone, unlocked. I stared at it for a second. My stomach twisted. I hated the idea of going through someone's phone. It felt like betrayal. But hadn't he already betrayed me? My fingers moved before I could stop them. Notifications. A couple emails. A text thread named Greg. Work at the top. I tapped it, and I froze. It wasn't Greg. The messages were from someone named Madison. They weren't sexual. No pictures. No direct mentions of the incident. But the tone. It was flirtatious. Familiar. And the most recent message, sent the night before, was a casual, missing you. Next trip soon. I dropped the phone like it burned. My chest hollowed out. Again. I walked into the living room and turned on the light. Daniel stirred, groggy. Elena, what time is it? Who's Madison? I asked. His eyes snapped open. What? Don't lie, I said, voice flat. I read the texts. She said she misses you. He sat up slowly. It's nothing serious. Just someone I met during your trip. He looked down. My hands trembled. So it wasn't just one mistake. Was it, you kept talking to her? I didn't do anything with her after that night, he said quickly. I swear. I didn't want to feel alone. That word again. Alone. I laughed. Sharp. Bitter. You weren't alone. Daniel, you had me. He reached for me. I know. And I don't deserve you. But please, don't give up on us. That was the moment. The switch. Because in that instant, I saw us for what we really were. Not a couple going through a rough patch, but a memory of something that had already ended. I stepped back. I'm not giving up on us. I'm letting go of something that already broke. His face fell. You're really going to leave? I didn't answer. I walked into the bedroom, pulled out a suitcase, and for the first time in weeks, I felt clarity, not peace, not yet, but clarity, because sometimes the truth doesn't set you free right away. It rips you apart first, and only after the wreckage do you find the space to breathe again. I moved out the next morning. There wasn't a dramatic goodbye, no shouting, no dramatic tears, just silence, and the quiet thud of my suitcase wheels rolling across our apartment floor. Daniel didn't beg me to stay this time. He stood in the kitchen doorway, eyes hollow, lips trembling. I didn't hug him. I couldn't. My arms weren't made for holding ghosts. I moved into Julie's guest room, a tiny space with mint green walls and too many throw pillows. She offered me wine, popcorn, and the kind of warm silence that only true friends can give. The first few days were a blur. I called in sick to work, lay curled up under unfamiliar blankets, and cried until my throat burned, not just for him, but for me, for the version of myself that believed we were forever, for the girl who mistook being needed for being loved. It's funny how grief works. You think you're crying because someone betrayed you, but really, you're mourning a version of the future that no longer exists. The wedding that will never happen, the dog you won't adopt, the inside jokes that stop being funny the moment they belong to a stranger. I deleted his number, blocked Madison, threw away the concert tickets we'd planned to use next month. I even took off the necklace he gave me for our anniversary, the one I swore I'd wear forever. I still couldn't sleep. Every night, I found myself replaying memories like a movie on loop. His laugh when I burned pancakes. The way he held my face when he kissed me. The stupid dance he did to that 180s song. Why do the good memories scream the loudest when you're trying to forget? One night, I opened my laptop and stared at a blank document. And then, I started writing. Not a Reddit post this time. Not a message to him. Just a letter to myself. Dear Elena, you are not weak for loving. You are strong for walking away. You gave someone your heart. He broke it. But that says more about him than it ever will about you. I wrote until the sun came up. That letter didn't fix everything, but it reminded me that I still had a voice, one that wasn't begging for answers or forgiveness. A week later, I went back to work. My students screamed when they saw me and clung to my legs like I'd been gone for years. One of them gave me a drawing, a stick figure teacher with a giant heart. I cried again, but this time, it wasn't just sadness, it was gratitude. I started walking after work, headphones in, podcasts or music, anything to fill the silence. I passed by couples holding hands and didn't flinch. I watched strangers laugh on cafe patios and didn't envy them. I was still healing, but I wasn't broken anymore. One afternoon, while reorganizing Julie's bookshelf to feel some semblance of control, I found an old photo album tucked behind travel guides. She must have made it in college. Blurry photos, glitter stickers, captions in Sharpie. At the end, there was a page titled Things That Made Me Stronger. It had cutout quotes, song lyrics, and a sticky note that said, "Sometimes we don't get closure, we give it to ourselves." I read it again and again, and I realized I didn't need Daniel to apologize one more time. I didn't need Madison to vanish or karma to do its job. I just needed to accept what happened, feel it fully, and then let it go. That night, I took out my phone and typed one last message in my notes app. Loving someone doesn't mean you have to stay. You can still love and walk away. And I did. A month passed. The apartment started to feel less like a crash pad and more like a soft place to land. Julie, bless her, gave me space when I needed it, and dragged me out for sushi or wine when she knew I didn't know how to ask. My mornings returned to something resembling normal. Coffee, lesson plans, the tiny chaos of second graders, and slowly, the ache that had been living in my chest began to soften, not disappear, but shrink into something I could carry without it drowning me. One Saturday, I visited a plant nursery. I hadn't meant to. I was just out walking, killing time before meeting Julie for brunch, when I passed by a little shop with green vines spilling over the windowsills. I went in. The air smelled like dirt and sun. Calm. Alive. I walked past rows of ferns and succulents, letting my fingers brush against the leaves, and stopped in front of a tiny jade plant. Resilient. Slow-growing. Needs very little to survive. But when it's happy, it thrives. I bought it. I named it Grace. I didn't tell Daniel. Truth be told, I hadn't spoken to him since the day I left. Not once. He sent a couple emails early on. Apologies. Explanations. Hopes for someday. I never answered. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because there was nothing left to hear. I knew what I needed now. That clarity I had in those first days, the voice that said you are allowed to walk away, had grown louder. It was no longer a whisper. It was the version of me I had long buried under compromise and forgiveness and second chances. I started doing things I hadn't done in years. I took a solo weekend trip to Santa Fe and wandered through art galleries like I had all the time in the world. I joined a pottery class. I sat alone in cafes with a book and didn't feel awkward. I found myself laughing more and crying less. I didn't rush to fill the space Daniel left behind. That wasn't the point. This wasn't about moving on to someone new. It was about moving back to myself. But healing is never linear. Some nights, I still missed him. Or maybe I missed the idea of him, the comfort, the version of us that I thought was real. But even in those moments, I didn't want to go back. Because I had finally learned something no one ever teaches you. You don't have to be angry to leave. You don't have to hate someone to know they're wrong for you. You can love someone deeply and still say, "This is not enough." That's what I did. I stopped waiting for closure. I stopped waiting for the perfect day when the pain would magically disappear. I chose to heal. Imperfectly, slowly, stubbornly, one step, one breath, one choice at a time. Spring came late that year. The trees along the boulevard near my school bloomed all at once, like they'd been holding their breath all winter. I stood under them one afternoon, watching the petals fall like confetti, and for the first time in months, I felt light. Not fixed, not perfectly healed, but lighter. I had signed a lease on a tiny studio apartment with peeling paint and terrible plumbing, but a window that looked out onto the city skyline. I painted one wall pale yellow. I filled it with plants. I cooked for myself. I danced in the kitchen barefoot to old jazz records. I was alone, but I wasn't lonely. And then, one ordinary Tuesday evening, Daniel called. I didn't recognize the number at first, but the moment he said my name, my spine straightened, my breath caught, but only for a second. Elena, he said, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from. He wasn't wrong. I just needed to say one more thing. He continued, you didn't deserve any of it. Not the lies, not the hurt. And I hope you're doing okay. I closed my eyes, letting the words settle. Thank you, I said, quietly. He didn't ask for another chance. He didn't beg. Maybe he finally understood. We hung up after that, and I sat there, staring at my reflection in the window, the city lights flickering behind me, and realized I wasn't waiting anymore. Not for answers, not for apologies, not for the ache to leave. I had already left it behind. People talk a lot about heartbreak like it's the end of something, and maybe it is. But for me, it was also a beginning. The beginning of listening to my gut, of trusting my worth, of realizing that love isn't about endurance, it's about alignment, about showing up, fully and truthfully. And when someone chooses to betray that, you don't owe them your silence, your sadness, or your second chances. You owe yourself peace. I didn't burn his pictures. I didn't block his name out of my memories. I let them stay, quiet reminders of how far I'd come. Sometimes, healing looks like screaming into a pillow. Sometimes, it's buying a jade plant. And sometimes, it's sipping tea on your fire escape as the sun sets, knowing you're still whole. I never got the closure I thought I wanted, but I found something better. I found me. Thanks for tuning in to Reddit Stories. New tales drop daily drama, love, or ghostly glories. Hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you won't miss the next story we tell. Got thoughts to share? Drop them below. We read them all just so you know.